Yeah, I'm gonna get right into this about the Canada Post strike. Our channel, like we've been talking about lately about like the workers' revolution. What I believe, it should be kind of common sense, really, that if all of the workers kind of organized a strike amongst themselves. I'm talking about across the industries, across industries. If workers united can go on a strike, it would probably take 24 hours for them to be able to gain all of their demands. And I don't think workers are asking for a lot. They're just waking up and realizing they're asking just to survive, just for this fact of having a family, of maybe owning your own home. We're all just really in need for survival. We're not asking for yachts. We're not asking for huge mansions or to work on your um, home renovations in the multi thousands over the weekend. That's not what most Canadians or most Americans are really asking for. We're just asking for working for an honest pay. And that used to mean something. That used to mean something. And now that meaning has been declining over the past long while. And yet we're all suffering in silence and we're all just letting it happen. So I'm going to listen to this Canada Post strike and see what they have to say, because we were talking about this before this happened. So let's see what they're saying.
Some 55,000 Canada Post workers remain on strike, and there's no indication of any early intervention by Ottawa today. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says it's been asking for fair wages, safer working conditions, and other improvements over nearly a year of bargaining. Mail and parcels will not be delivered for the duration of the strike, and some post offices will be closed. Ian Lee is an associate professor at the Sprott School of Business, and he says both sides need to be realistic with their expectations.
The private couriers who are very efficient in the cities, the big cities where 80% of Canadians live, according to StatsCan, Toronto and GTA and Ottawa and Vancouver and so forth. But in the rural, the private for-profit couriers, they don't want to go there because the densities are way too small, which means in plain English, they can't do it profitably. It's horrendously expensive. So they won't go there. So they don't, people in the rural and the small towns and villages and hamlets around rural Eastern Ontario that I'm so familiar with because that's where I grew up as a boy 50, 60 years ago. They don't have alternatives.
The two sides met briefly Friday with a mediator, but they won't get back to the table again until Monday. That's according to the union.
Thank you. I will now recognize.
Well, that was some really dumb shit. I don't know about anyone else, but that really didn't tell me anything. That's Canadian news, folks. They didn't say shit. So what did they say? I didn't hear shit in that. That was, who was that? CB24. Are you guys watching that? Because that thing had 15,000 views. Let's try again, because that did not explain fucking anything.
Fallout.
They're going to lose customers
as postal workers enter a second day of strike action.
Christmas cards are not going to be going this year unless something happens.
What it means for your holiday mail and the future of Canada Post.
Okay.
Tensions. Trudeau's warning.
Yeah, we're gonna skip because this is all bullshit.
Intensified is sheltering.
A lot of the history of the building.
55,000 postal workers hit
55,000 people.
Second straight day. Canadians and small businesses are already feeling the effects. With no indication of a deal coming, though, there are growing concerns over the disastrous implications of a lengthy labor disruption for the Crown Corporation. Joe Scarpelli has tonight's top story.
Crown
With
Corp.
less than 6 weeks to go before Christmas.
Crown Corp, for everyone that we should actually look that up. I'll look that up right now. Crown Corporation. Crown Corp. So Crown Corp is a government-owned business that serves the public interest and has both commercial and public policy goals, blah, blah, blah. State-owned enterprise, most common in Commonwealth countries such as Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, blah, 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 which are owned and operated by shareholders. So they're not owned by shareholders, they're just owned by the government. So that's what a Crown Corp is, sure.
For some, a Canada Post strike couldn't have come at a worse time.
I'm one of those people that still sends greeting cards.
That means about 100 of this Toronto woman's friends might not be getting a Christmas.
Okay, wait. So she is, this is the entitlement that we're talking about here. 55,000 postal workers go on strike, and this lady's got to talk about her Christmas cards being delayed. Lady, come on. How about you listen up and talk about what the actual impacts of this is? Like, I'm sorry, Grandma.
Christmas card from her this year.
You know, we'll all live.
But that might not be the case for some small businesses, especially as Black Friday approaches.
They have been through the ringer over the last number of years. A strong wind could blow down some of these businesses.
The president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says 3/4 of small businesses could be negatively impacted by the Canada Post strike.
Every time there is a postal strike, more and more businesses leave Canada Post never to return. They're playing a bit with fire right now because a lot of Canada Post workers may make themselves irrelevant if.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. So I'm gonna just tackle that here quickly. So Canada Post has 55,000 employees that are going on strike. Well, let's say roughly, right? So he was saying they might become expendable, right? He's saying they're drawing their cards out, and their cards they called bullshit, so they're expendable here. So who do they think is going to be taking over for Canada Post? Are there competition? Let's hear.
If this strike continues,
whether there is this work stoppage or not, Canada Post is going bankrupt. So this will only accelerate the bankruptcy.
This University of Ottawa economics professor says Canada's Postal Service, once able to bring economic activity to a halt with a work stoppage, is now losing money at an unsustainable rate, with losses continuing to mount.
Certainly don't think that postal workers are overpaid, and I think that they do a good job. But the fact of the matter is that Canada Post does not have the money to pay them.
Both Canada Post and the union representing its workers say they remain at the bargaining table.
Okay.
While Ottawa has no plans to intervene, Canada's Labour Minister says new resources, including a special mediator, are being sent to help support the parties. Joel Scarpelli.
Guys, no one even said yet who is replacing them. You said before they're expendable. 55,000 of them are expendable. So who can replace them for doing this? And it's interesting because before they said that Canada Post would strike and they would have actual impact, but now they're not. So it's interesting. I'm not sure if I'm for them or against them. I'm just listening because I am all about a revolution, the workers' revolution. I think it's about time. The tea kettle's been boiling and overboiling for far too long. So,
Pelly, Global News.
Operations resumed at Canada's second biggest port in Montreal today after the federal government intervened.
So is that it for these people? So they're done. They're not talking about it anymore. So that's the Canada Post strike. So I'm guessing well, like the Canadian news is just so uninformative that it's ridiculous. That I didn't really learn anything. It felt like they were just talking about random bullshit. But okay, so 55,000 employees roughly going on strike. It's been a few days, right? So say it's been like 2 days, and the experts are saying they're going to become bankrupt. Okay. And what are they striking for? They're striking for, because what did he say? Inequality or something? They always strike for similar reasons, right? Inequality, low pay, you know, treated poorly, right? So it's kind of, yeah, it's the age-old workers strike. And the worker, that they're in a union, and they feel like they deserve to be paid more. They feel like their working environment isn't up to par. And I'm curious to say, how much are they actually making? So let's go take a look at that. How much is Canada Post employee salary? They're roughly making $47,000 a year for mail carriers to $70,000 per year for supervisor. Are you kidding me? Okay, so they're making 47 grand to 70 grand. Okay, how much do you need to make per year to afford living in Toronto? Okay, so an single person, Greater Toronto area isn't the same as Toronto. 45,000 per year, $25 per hour. So it's basically saying that the salary is good for a single person. The salary is good enough for just, like, you know, one man or one woman, an adult. Don't think you're gonna retire off of that salary, or you're gonna, you know, be able to afford, you know, going on vacations or have a savings account or anything like that is beyond question. So if you agree with this strike or not, that's just how it is right now. That's what strike's all about. So do with that information that what you will. For me, from my perspective, you know which camp I'm in, right? I'm for the workers' revolution. I think that this Canadian Post strike is basically going to be such a niche thing that they'll be able to brush it off and kind of maybe give them a small incremental bump in pay, but for no like lasting real decisions or anything consequential. What would really need to happen is a global strike across industries, and that could only take a day or two at max, before everyone, I believe, gets paid fairly for a hard day's work. That's the goal. It shouldn't be some kind of dream. It shouldn't be some kind of, you know, fantasy. Because if we were to go and research that the CEO of these places, how much are they making? Right? So, yeah, with that, take it easy. Thanks for watching.